Oh boy, electric vehicles, get ready. This is gonna be a big one. Like, this is a big one. So just so you know, if you are in pre-K doing this all by yourself, get ready, because it's a big one. But if you're a grown-up with a pre-K, you're good. You're gonna be great. This is a very involved and at the same time incredibly enriching project. And I say that in all honesty because tonight's the last design challenge of our series.
Yes, sadly,
Yeah.
it's bittersweet.
Yeah, but I think that it's going to be super fun. We need our electric vehicles material. I hope everybody is ready.
All right, well, it is 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get my little spiel out of the way with so we can get to the main action. So good evening, everyone. My name is Miss Katie. I am here at the Calvert Library in Prince Frederick. We are so happy to have all of you with us in person and also online for our last FutureMakers kit of our wonderful series that we've had, and tonight is electric vehicles. It's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be a challenging one, but I know we can all handle it, and we've got our grown-ups or someone older nearby maybe to give us a hand if we need it. Coach Matt and I will be here with you. We cannot see you, we cannot hear you, and that's intentional. We're not supposed to. We're just keeping your privacy safe. So if you have any burning questions, you can put them in the chat, and Matt and I will do our best to answer them. And yeah, and this will be recorded. It's being recorded right now. The link will be sent out by the end of this week. And so if you want to revisit what you've learned here with Coach Matt and redesign and look at your kit again and work with it, you can. You also have your written instructions too that came in your kit.
That's right. That's right.
Everything you need. And I will, following this, I will also send out a link with just a quick survey. So if your grown-up could do that, so we can hopefully bring Coach Matt back again when we have more kits. We would love to do that. And without any further ado, take it away, Coach Matt.
Thank you, Coach Katie. This is awesome. Welcome back. If you've built amazing things with us over the last few months, I think that you're going to be in for an incredible treat. I also hope that you've brought your making, solving, troubleshooting brains today. In your materials kit, you have a wide variety of materials that do a lot of different kinds of things. Tonight, I'm going to share a way to make most of this work for you. In fact, we have a troubleshooting challenge built in. Some of your materials may or may not fit perfectly. And if they don't fit perfectly, we have a troubleshooting challenge to solve, don't we? Up until now, there's been some challenges that are very open-ended, meaning how you could solve it in a bunch of different ways. This challenge actually has a very specific path to building, but we need to troubleshoot and make small adjustments along the way. You have a lot of choices to make. In fact, I think you may solve the challenges in a unique way. I am predicting there will be people who say in the chat, whoa, this is really hard. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And there will also be some voices in the chat saying, I think I got this. I think this is easy. And if you want to, you can add your pro tips in the chat as you discover them. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen as usual. And I know that this project is all about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles. Now, here is a view of an electric vehicle. Doesn't look like a whole bunch. It's made up of some weird stuff. This one has some green and blue foam parts. There's wires. There looks like there's cardboard and a rubber band and like a little wedge of stuff. And there's like wheels and it's complicated. Like there's a lot here. How do we do this on a Zoom? You came to the right place. Because we're going to do this together in stages. And we're also going to do this as a problem-solving challenge. I believe that working together, we're going to be able to solve just about every troubleshooting aspect of this challenge. When I say troubleshooting, I'm being very specific. we can recognize a lot of things about this project, things that are familiar. This illustration shows a gear and a wheel and a battery and some wires. In fact, there's even an LED and a battery. And we've done some LED and battery stuff in the past. We'll be able to activate that more as some swag, some decor to zhuzh up our vehicles. Won't make it run any faster, but boy, it'll look cool in the dark. Take a look at the parts in your materials kit. What do you recognize? What is new? There'll be some new terminology that I'll be introducing. We've done some motorized work before. Some of these parts may look very familiar, but if this is your first time making something with us this evening, I think this is going to be awesome. I'd like you to prepare some of your parts while I share some of the big ideas. So some of the parts that you're going to need to prepare, you're going to need to find your foam part sheet, and I'm going to suggest take out the wheels, anything that's round and that has a hole in it. You're welcome to take out the parts that have the slits in it too. Those we'll be using later. Those have to do more with lights than with things that roll, but take your parts out. There's also a cardboard sheet, and it has a little piece, a tab, that's hanging off of it. That can come off as well. You'll see when I mention that. You'll have a gear wheel. You'll also have a motor with some very long wires. This illustration shows short wires, but yours had some pretty long wires. And then a parts bag. Yours may have a different looking parts bag. It probably doesn't have 2 rubber bands in it. It probably only has 1 rubber band in it, but maybe it'll have 2. We'll see. And then also, actually, it should have 2 rubber bands. And if you don't have 2, sorry, I'm reading my wrong note. If you don't have 2 rubber bands, I'll show you what to do in case you need an extra. Then we have this other opportunity, which is batteries, gear wheels, all kinds of stuff that go in there. So in your parts bag, let's take a look. You have the motor band and you have 2 axles. You'll have some LEDs and some batteries. The batteries will be in a paper package. You have a gear, you have a battery band, and you have a AA battery. Take a little bit of time, double check. If any of these parts are missing, I can make suggestions for replacements. In fact, I'll make suggestions for replacements as we go, because you may want to upgrade your electric vehicle. These pieces probably are already out, but make sure that you've got your wheels removed. There's bushings. There's a small wheel. There's a couple of big wheels. There's some bearings. Bushings and bearings are important parts. And then you also have some headlight parts. All right. Ready? Let's begin. Our project involves circuits. We're going to be exploring circuits. We've sort of figured out circuit stuff in the past. If this is your first FutureMakers experience, tonight we're going to be exploring how these circuits work. Also, we're exploring troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is a critical part of being an engineer or designer, someone that needs to solve problems. So circuits are paths for electricity to flow along. That simple. Your battery stores electrochemical energy. That electrical chemical energy can travel through wires, through the motor, causing a magnet and some wound up copper wire inside the motor to work on each other and make that motor shaft spin. This motor shaft is the part of the motor that spins when you run it between your fingers. And then it returns a little bit extra leftover power, goes back towards the battery, and then it cycles through. So circuits are there to make things go in this case. But troubleshooting is very, very different. We're going to solve problems ourselves. We're going to need to do this on our own. We are not there to fix it for you or even hand over hand with you. So we're going to need to solve some problems ourselves. Don't give up. Find the challenge and troubleshoot it. You ready? Here's where your challenges may be. There may need to be ways of putting in bushings so the wheels don't slide left and right. There may need to be ways of keeping our axles aligned so our gear makes contact with our motor. There is a lot of challenges in this design. So let's make, here we go. We're going to make our sort of chassis, the part of the car that just rolls, wheels, axles, bearings. You're going to need both big wheels. You're going to need 2 bearings, which are the things that are round with a little rectangle sticking off of it. We're going to need 3 bushings and an axle. I'd like you to lay out your parts so you can imagine them like this. They go together the way that you see it here. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a moment. It's going to take you a moment just to get this where it needs to be. So, follow this sequence. It starts with a bushing and then a big wheel, then a bearing and another bearing, a bushing, a wheel, and a bushing. I'll leave it right there. So, yeah, go ahead and build this. So far, so good. Complicated, not impossible. Haven't seen anything show up in the chat, so I guess we're moving forward. We have another axle. That axle is going to need to, this time, hold on to our drive wheel. That gear wheel is really what's going to make this car go. So you'll need to use your smaller wheel this time, your gear wheel, a couple of bushings, a couple of bearings, and an axle. Now here's where our troubleshooting may start. Putting that wheel on, then we have our bushing. Then we have a bearing and another bearing, a bushing, and the wheel that matches the gear wheel in size. That's our smaller foam wheel, and it's capped off with a bushing. Now, if you can visualize what's happening here, we're actually creating the parts of the car, the axle, the bushings, and the bearings, which is what our axle will roll on, the bearing. These are going to get installed into the body of the car. I had a request to go back for a sec. I will review all these steps before we move on to the next big step forward. But I want to point out something important. If your wheel spins when you place it on the axle, that means something normal has happened. Our axles are made of wood. They're very lightweight, and they're designed to fit into the hole in that black plastic wheel. But over time, because they're made of wood, they dry out. And as they dry out, they shrink just a little bit. If your wheel spins, we have a pro tip. You need to troubleshoot this. You could take a wedge of foam or a little piece of plastic from a bag or a tiny piece of tape, something, and put it in that axle hole where it needs to fit. We need to add something in there without forcing it, just to make it a little tighter. Some people have used a little tiny piece of Scotch tape, if they have it. Some people use a little tiny piece of paper, or tear a little corner off the plastic bag the project came in. Some people take a little tiny piece of foam and just stuff it down along the side of that hole. Whatever you can do to gently push the wheel back on so it does not turn. Let me go back. We just built our 2 axles and wheels. In order to make this add to a platform, we have to add these in a specific sequence. For our large foam wheels, there are bushings on the outside, wheels inside of those, and then on one side you're going to have a bearing and one extra bushing. You'll probably have an extra bushing overall. They don't have to look exactly like this, and the same information is in your printed instructions. For the part that has our gear wheel, it's a similar orientation. And just in case, if that wheel spins when you put it on the wooden axle, we need to put a shim inside of the opening of the wheel. Be careful not to force the dowel. Again, the dowel is made of wood. If you force that dowel, it could crack. And if the dowel cracks, you're not completely out of luck, but it's a challenge then. Then you really are troubleshooting. If the dowel, your axle, breaks for some reason, we found there's one really good replacement for it. Somewhere in the world, there are skewers for shish kebab. A shish kebab skewer is just about the same diameter as that dowel, about 1/8 of an inch. Any long, skinny metal rod, wooden rod, plastic rod that fits inside the wheel will work. So, just in case, it's not a disaster, but try not to force the axle into the wooden wheel. All right, let's go back. Troubleshooting is all around us, especially when we're doing new projects like this. So this is a simple way to troubleshoot. It's just using scraps to make the wheel snug. You don't want the wheel to spin on the axle. You'll see why soon. The wheel needs to be tight on that axle. Great. So now let's get our platform ready. The platform is going to be what we attach our wheels to. If you haven't already, remove the cardboard tab from your piece of cardboard with the holes in it. That's going to be a wedge that will allow us to make our motor hold tight. Once that's removed, we'll be able to do the next step. The motor and the battery. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your printed instructions look a little different than what I'm about to show you, but they're similar. And big note of caution, our other challenge. And this is something that if it happens, we can't troubleshoot it. In past projects that have used motors, we've let you know if you pull on the wires are a little too rough, they may break off the motor. So when you're handling the wires, be gentle. They're attached with solder, which is like hot glue, but it's made of metal and it's brittle. You don't want to pull too hard on those wires, or they'll break. And if they break, you may not have the tools to solder them back on. There should be a plastic gear. Add that gear to the motor. Add it the way you see it here. The teeth of the gear are facing away from the motor itself. It should snug right down, but it doesn't need to go all the way down. In fact, if you try to force it, you could bust the motor a little bit. So just snug it on, and when it stays, perfect, leave it where it's at. Just snug it up. We will need to take one of our rubber bands and place it around the motor. It won't be perfectly tight, but it will be snug around the motor. I'll go back. Place the gear on the motor, so the teeth are facing away. Don't force it, just snug it down. Then slide the rubber band around the body of the motor. Carefully thread the wires through if you go from the wire end, or if you come down over the gear, just make sure that you don't snap it. Should be snug. All right. We've done a lot. Really, we've done a lot. We've put all kinds of parts together, and none of them are connected yet. I hope that you're okay with that, because we're about to put the whole thing together all at once, and it could become a little intense. So if you need to, take a deep breath. This is where the rubber band hits the road. That was terrible. I apologize. I won't do that again. Okay. Other rubber band. See, it's a double rubber band day. If you don't have two rubber bands, at least use the yellow rubber band on your motor. Any rubber band will work on your battery. These rubber bands around the battery situation, this takes some work. If you've done a workshop with us before, if you made a Wigglebot or if you made a Drawbot, this may be the hardest thing you do in your entire life, is stretch that rubber band from here to there. If you're very fortunate and you have fingers the size of a second grader's, this probably will be no problem. But if you have giant monster fingers like I have, it takes 3 weeks of therapy to recover from placing the rubber band on the battery. Give it a try, you'll be fine. Here's where things get weird. And it's not super clear, but I'll try my best to show you what I mean. There are two tabs. There's a tab that's on the short side and a tab that's on the long side. They're easy to confuse. We're going to orient our board the way you see it here, where the short is on the top and the bottom, and the long is on the sides. Our motor needs to slide over a tab and grab it with the rubber band. Then you need to find that little piece that you took off. And you're going to flip the board and secure your motor like this. I'm going to go ahead and review this because this confuses me sometimes. All right, we've made our battery, we've made our motor. We're going to attach our motor so it's hanging off, but connected to the tab. And the tab is slid between the motor and the band. We're going to flip the whole thing over, find your piece of cardboard, and you're going to wedge it. I'll show you what I mean. Here's the bottom side. Here is that piece. Pick up the end of the rubber band. The motor is underneath the board. Slide it underneath the rubber band. It will wedge it and hold the motor tight. So our product designer, Maddie, was trying and just really working hard to figure out a way, how do we stabilize this motor so it doesn't flip and flop and it stays really rigid in contact, but can still twist from side to side. This is the solution that one of our students came up with. They just took a scrap piece of cardboard and jammed it under their rubber band. They fixed it for us. It was awesome. We were super grateful. I think you'll be able to get this. So now our motor is underneath and a wedge is driven above through the rubber band, like that. I'll give you a moment to sort of catch up. We still have to do something with the battery. That's actually easy. Let's double check. On one side, you have the motor. On the other side, you have the wedge and the rubber band. You can even see from this illustration that the wires can go through the hole. Here's a photograph of sort of a roughed up, crummy version. This is a real working version that we put together just to make sure that it sort of looks similar to yours. That's where that wedge goes. Notice the motor is underneath. The battery, well, similar stuff, but actually easier. If the motor is under, the battery needs to be on top. This is how we're going to make the car go. The motor will be under the platform, the battery will be on top. And it's as simple as just sliding the battery down on the other tab. Yours should be oriented the way you see it here. There's your battery, wrapped with the rubber band, and it attaches like that, there on the end. If you change the orientation of where the motor and the battery go, the car actually will be built sideways, and it probably won't work. So you'll just flip it back, just swap them. All right, we've covered an enormous amount of ground. We have attached our motor, added a wedge, flipped it over so it's tight to the board. We've also attached our battery on the opposite side to the other tab that remains. Now, here comes fun. We've double checked that it looks like this. I think it's time to add our axles. One axle has our gear wheel on it. That goes back up behind the motor, on the underneath. The bushings have those rectangular parts that are made to go into the holes. You can just push them in. On the other end, away from our motor, underneath our battery, goes our big wheels. The bushings need to stay close to the wheels. The bushings need to stay in those holes. Well, I'm using the wrong words. The bearings need to stay in the holes. The bushings need to hold the wheels so they don't fall off the axles, but they're not rubbing on the bushings. You'll see what I mean. Jack is already asking, well, where do the wires go? And we did have the comment, you're going to put the wires on either end of the battery. I promise you, that's in your printed instructions, and that's what we're going to show you next. Here's what it looks like with the pieces of foam and all of our bearings and bushings installed. You can see this is a slightly different choice. Yours is similar, but not the same. The bearings are important. They have to be in the holes, but the bushings keep the axles from sliding left to right. So that's going to be up to you where you place them. We have our suggested places. When you flip it over, the gear should make contact with the wheel. The gear should make contact with the wheel. Challenges. I told you that we'd be troubleshooting. One of our troubleshooting challenges was to make sure that our black wheel does not spin when it's on the axle. The axle can spin, but the wheel should spin with it. The wheel shouldn't spin by itself on the axle. If the wheel is spinning by itself on the axle, when we go to make the car run, it will just sit there and spin, but not push. We won't have any oomph. We'll have a spinning wheel and a spinning gear and a spinning motor, but no car moving. They need to all be integrated in a system that moves together. Let me show you what I mean. Here's our last steps, and we're right at the end of our time together. Troubleshooting. First things first. What Jack asked was, where do the wires go? And then we say, put the wires between the rubber band and the end of the battery. The metal parts on the ends of the battery is really where you want the wires to make contact. That probably will make your motor start to spin. If the wires aren't underneath and between the rubber band and the battery, they won't close the circuit. So we need to have a closed circuit. As you can see in this photograph, there are wires that go under each end, one on one side and one on the other. Doesn't matter which side. In fact, if you switch them, watch what happens. Watch the direction your vehicle rolls in. You can reverse its direction by reversing where the wires go. Second, you did some troubleshooting if you needed to around our wheel fitting on our axle. If the wheel already fit snug, great, no problems. If the wheel spun, you need to add something in there like a shim, some sort of material that will bind it together when it's gently snugged on. And if your axle broke, I'm sorry, it is made of wood, but you can probably find a skewer like you'd put on a barbecue. That's the same diameter. It should fit just well. Here's the real challenge. At first, the motor will spin and it may make the wheel spin because the gear and the motor need to mesh. But if the gear and the motor aren't meshed just right, it could just spin and skip and sputter and not make contact. So, time to make adjustments. You can adjust the angle of the back axle by moving it forward and backwards. Those bushings can slide and angle in the holes. You may need to move the axle left or right in order to get the gear on the wheel to match the gear on the motor. This is the biggest troubleshooting opportunity. This is where you will make the most corrections and where I think you'll learn the most about this system. And when you switch it, watch which direction the wheels turn. Switch those wires and see if you get a different result. I'm going to quickly go back over some features that you can add. These you can do on your own. For example, if you add the LED and a battery and insert them into the headlight holder, where could you add some light? The LED needs to slide over the battery in a specific way. You'll discover that. One way it glows and the other way it doesn't. If you made hypnotizers with us before, you've already discovered this on your own. So, troubleshooting. Engineers absolutely need to troubleshoot. And our circuits are paths for electricity to follow. When we add our battery to the motor's wires, we create a circuit that's closed. And the battery allows that motor to run. We've made a lot of projects over the last several weeks. In fact, the last several months, what am I saying? There's so many weird things that we've made. There's a lot of awesome things that we've made. I hope that over all of these projects, as many as you've been able to be part of, you feel like you've had a chance to discover how things work. It's important to learn by doing. I believe that we grow as people when we're faced with some design challenges that we need to troubleshoot, and we can apply our prior knowledge plus some new discoveries to build the confidence to solve things successfully, only then can we help others. We can help them understand, we can help them enjoy, and we can help them learn so they can pass that on. You have chosen to do this, and for that, I'm grateful. Thank you. I hope that this has been a good challenge for you. I'm going to spend a little time in the chat now. Which is the headlight holder? Well, there's some places that a battery can fit. Not the big battery with the rubber band. Those little coin cell batteries, about the size of a quarter. Where in the foam parts could you slide one of those coin cell batteries? That's the headlight holder. You've got 3 of them. They can go anywhere you want. So I think that's it. Are we done? Is that all? Have we hit the end? I think so. What do you think, Miss Katie? Oh, I think you may have been struck by the terrible mute disease.
Here I am. Yes. We have a lot of electric vehicles running around the floor.
Whoa. Are they going backwards and forwards?
They're going all over the place. They have lights on them. It's awesome.
That's so great. I'm really happy to hear that. I hope everybody had what they needed, and if they needed to troubleshoot, they were able to. I trust that this team has everything they need to knock everyone else's socks off. I hope that we get a chance to play more together soon. Thank you for inviting FutureMakers into your homes and into the branch, and just for playing and learning by playing. It's really important. So glad that you're doing it.
Yeah, we are so glad to have had everyone here. So thank you from Calvert Library. Yes, hopefully we'll have more FutureMakers in the future. Hopefully not too distant future. We are excited about them here and love them. And
wonderful.
Yeah, keep having fun, guys. Don't give up. And you can redesign. You can redesign your electric vehicles. You can add to it and make it even more awesome than it already is. So yeah, thank you all for joining us tonight. Like I said, it's all being recorded, so you can watch this again. We will have the link by the end of the week for everyone. It'll be on Calvert Library's YouTube channel. So if for some reason you don't see the link, you can always check out the videos that we have there. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody at home that's been typing and making and building and typing. You're so patient and you're so thoughtful.
Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much. And grown-ups, please, when the survey link comes, please take a couple minutes to answer that for us. It's very helpful when we need funding. We can show how wonderful our programs are and how wonderful it is to collaborate with groups like FutureMakers. So please take a couple minutes to do that when I send it out. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Take care. Have a great spring. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.